Okay, this is another quality of service lab. In this case, we're going to see trust. And in this lab, we are going to compare how the ports that are trusting compare in behavior with the ports that are not trusting. Remember that by default, Catalyst 9000, all their ports will be trusting by default. And we are doing this lab in a router, but the behavior will be absolutely the same. The trust boundary in this lab is located at the router's interface rather than at the switch interface. So we have this setup here. We have this branch office that has two VLANs. VLAN number 2, which is the voice VLAN, and VLAN 200, which is the user's VLAN. So the VoIP phones will belong to this VLAN number 2, and these phones will be sending traffic to this call manager, but this traffic is marked with a value of DSCCP set to EF for expedited forwarding, and this router should respect that and forward that traffic without altering the marking. We want that to happen. However, we also want that if the user sends traffic with a marked, for instance EF, because they want to gain access to expedite forwarding and guaranteed bandwidth, we want this router to be aware of that and then remark the traffic, set it to DSCCP of 0. So we are actually saying here that we do not trust the traffic that arrives into the VLAN 200, and we are going to trust the traffic that arrives from VLAN 2, which is the VLAN where the voice over IP phones exist. So in order to do so, let's first examine how my interface are configured. So for instance, if I do a show or run for my local area network, I can see that this is my local area network configuration. I have this subinterface for the voice VLAN and this subinterface for the user's VLAN. And given these ports are going to trust by default, whatever marking is arriving in the traffic into these interfaces, that is how the router is going to forward that traffic. It is going to respect whatever marking the traffic arrives with, and it is going to send it that way. So for instance, if I go for the user PC and let's send traffic out into the network, for instance, doing a ping, let's do a ping, and we are going to use this particular parameter. With this parameter, I am marking the traffic with an EF, and a DSCP value of EF. So if we go and examine the packet capture here, as the traffic arrives into my trust boundary, I will see that from VLAN 200, the traffic arrives as marked with EF. And if I examine the traffic that is going to be forwarded by this router, this traffic keeps the marking. So that happens because the interfaces at my router are trusting by default. I don't want to trust those markings that arrive from VLAN 200, so I have to change that. And I'm going to do so by creating a policy map. So let's create a policy map. Do not trust. And then for class default, I'm going to set the DSCCP to 0. And then if I go to the interface, I'm going to attach this policy map to the interface. Service policy input, do not trust. So my configuration ends up like this. This port, this subinterface is going to trust, and this subinterface is not going to trust. So if I send the ping again, the traffic that arrives into my router from VLAN 200 arrives marked with EF, but the traffic that is being forwarded is now marked with 0. And that happens because I just entered this policy map here. That resets wherever marking arrives the traffic with to 0. And that is the difference between a port that trusts and a port that doesn't trust. So if I send the same ping from my phone device, let's send it from my phone device here. We'll see that it arrives from VLAN 2. So we see that this is a VLAN 2 and it is marked with EF, and once it is forwarded, it remains, or it keeps the marking. And that happens because this subinterface is trusting and this subinterface is not trusting. So that will be basically the difference between trust behavior and the not trusting behavior. And this works the same with that Catalyst 9000s. The main difference is that with Catalyst 9000 we have even more tools. For instance, we can detect devices, and my trust boundary, if I were using Catalyst 9000, my trust boundary will be closer to the user. That is something that I want. And I could issue more commands such as trust device and other features. That's it.